Hi, I'm Krista Rutherford in Dr. Yee's Info 614 class, and I have created a plan for how to implement an internet for the Nazarene Church, which is a Christian denomination with congregations all over the world. Since it is so widespread, this organization can easily benefit from having a central internet where church leaders can share resources and stay united through communication. This is very important in a Christian denomination. Here is an overview of this brief presentation, providing details according to the principles we've covered in class. I will tell you a little about the Nazarene Church and why it needs an internet, specifically what features the internet will need to support. Having stated the problem, I will then describe the specifications of the internet with regard to selected protocols at the 5 layers and the particular hardware that will be required. Finally, there will be a brief conclusion, including a breakdown of leader responsibility for the internet and its associated costs and maintenance. This is a map showing the worldwide distribution of Nazarene congregations from the church's website. Each red dot represents an active congregation. As you can see, it is widely spread. It is also big on missions, so Nazarenes are pretty much everywhere. Making the internet available to church leaders everywhere, including remote, underdeveloped regions, will be the real challenge, as we will see. Here are the major user features the internet will support. Most importantly, it needs to facilitate communication between leaders in any form that happens to be conducive to the ministry. News postings, formal emails, chats, forums, or even telephone. The church also produces many denominational publications such as church governmental policies, doctrinal statements, and education materials that church leaders need for their ministry. Here are 3 major areas of non-functional requirements for the system. As an organizational internet, it needs protection from unauthorized access and interference. Basic security measures will be implemented to ensure the confidentiality and integrity of data sent across the internet. The information published to the internet needs to be accessible to church leaders at all levels. The Nazarene Church is subdivided into districts, each with a superintendent responsible for a geographical area. In each district there are a number of independent congregations. Superintendents, pastors, elders, teachers, missionaries, and other leaders should have accounts on the internet. Also, the church should make economical use of resources and choose efficient means of achieving adequate performance, starting by choosing appropriate protocols. At the application layer, I have selected appropriate protocols for the desired features required. These applications operate more or less independently of lower-level protocols. However, certain transport protocols work better with certain applications, and I have attempted to make choices accordingly. Here's a summary of the important applications involved and the selected application protocols, along with the underlying transport protocols to be used. The church will have a central server and database which will contain the internet files, archives, and firewall. It will be maintained by administrators and accessed remotely by other users using secured login. Each district will have at least one router supporting its own subnetwork to which all leaders within the district may connect. This network diagram shows 3 districts connecting through 3 routers. The hierarchical structure of the network will enable districts and smaller subdivisions to customize and maintain their own subnetwork architecture. At the link layer, the network will operate on asynchronous transfer mode, or ATM, protocols. This slide, taken from Cisco Networkers' Introduction to WAN Protocols, session WMS 101, shows how data is broken down into uniform segments, encapsulated, and sent over a virtual circuit. ATM is an appropriate protocol for this internet because it uses virtual circuits. This gives users the advantages of a direct connection without the overhead of a circuit switched network. This, along with avoiding the handling of large segments of data, makes the ATM efficient in its use of bandwidth, which will offset the somewhat high cost of implementing it. As we have seen, one of the biggest problems is the wide distribution of the church. Being an international organization, it resides in many different countries where internet availability and costs will vary. The church does not have the means to provide its own internet service and will depend on whatever infrastructure is available. Cellular access may be an option in some places. This is a map from WorldTimeZone.com showing cellular coverage by country. Although it does not show the underdeveloped areas within countries without coverage, you can see that there are differences in coverage everywhere, so any one means of connection will not serve all church leaders. The other layers of the protocol stack fortunately operate independently of physical connection. However, at the application level, web developers should keep in mind that some remote users will have weaker connections or may rely on mobile devices for access and should make the interface adaptable to these circumstances. Security is an important consideration for this Internet. There are two main aspects of network security: message privacy and message integrity. First, the church will purchase firewall hardware and software from Cisco Systems to protect the central network from intrusion. This will block unauthorized viewing and manipulation of internal files. Also, the Internet will use SSL as part of the transport protocol to provide encryption for all data traveling through the network, endpoint authentication to ensure that users who do not have the correct key cannot access messages, and digital signatures to verify that the source of data is a legitimate registered user. Implementing this Internet will be a significant investment for the Nazarene Church. This breakdown, following with the general hierarchy of the organization, will help the church manage the costs of implementation and maintenance, while providing all leaders the benefits of the Internet. The church will fund the server, database, and some routers. It will also pay for the web development and other central services at the network level. Districts will be responsible for providing hosts and additional hardware to their congregations. Internet Service Provider (ISP) contracts will be negotiated at the congregation level depending on the ISPs available to the area. Once implemented, this Internet will be a great asset to the Nazarene Church in pursuing its mission, connecting church leaders around the world. It will help the organization stay united in its vision and make effective large-scale use of its resources.